Tennessee does pick up an offensive line commit for the 2025 class. What can you tell me about the Vols' newest pledge, which was certainly significant news over the evening?
Well, we can break this down. They have picked up, as we've talked about, Antoni Kade Ogumoro, they picked him up out of Oklahoma, which is why we talked about in the first block, for those of you who saw, about Josh Heupel and if he was specifically going for Oklahoma kids, because they got him from Cincinnati. I mean, they beat out Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina, Duke, East Carolina, schools you wouldn't think Tennessee would want to compete with. But Glenn Ellerbe wanted him. He comes from Elgin, Oklahoma. He is a 3-star across the board, an interior lineman at 6'4", 320, so a good size as an interior lineman. And he basically has a strong lower body and is great in the run game. Now, his agility and mobility is questionable, but it is functional, they say. So, which helps on pull run plays, but you don't have a lot of pull run plays in this offense. So the question is going to become his pass blocking, but the interior line is crucial for run blocking because that's what makes the whole offense go. So I think he's a good fit for the system in that regard. At the same time, to this point, Dave, and I mean, we have to call it out. So far, Tennessee's missed on most of their offensive linemen on the recruiting trail. They have been successful with offensive linemen that have been starting in the program. Nobody that they recruited, though. They've only gotten them either through the transfer portal or they were already on the roster when the coaches arrived. They have missed on a lot of linemen, and that's a real question going forward. And he's the first lineman committed in the 2025 recruiting class. So I have a lot of questions about this pickup, whether it was we talked about maybe sticking to Oklahoma. Was it to get somebody else? Is he even going to be there in a year? I mean, I think that Tennessee's plan going forward is to use the transfer portal to build their offensive line every year.
Maybe, but I like this pickup. I do. I know it's a 3-star guy, but he's Micronesian. And we've talked about how much we love Polynesian. That's very similar. So Stacey Oliver, who handles a lot of our baseball coverage, she sent me a text of what Polynesian means. Okay? Ogumoro's family is from Saipan, the largest of the Northern Marina Islands, a U.S. Commonwealth in the Western Pacific. He wrapped up his official visits by last weekend, wanted to make his college decision before heading back to Saipan this weekend. Bottom line, he's from the same area, probably the same bloodline. I know we shouldn't make stereotypical statements, but I have never met a Polynesian player who doesn't play hard as hell. Not one time. If there's one, I've never met him.
Yes, but you also have to have a base level of talent too. And again, is he agile enough for this roster? That's the question. And I mean, look, the track record is there of Dave. Let's call it what it is. We talked about Heupel's talent evaluation.
Like this pickup, do you?
I don't like any offensive lineman that commits to Tennessee at this point because Josh Heupel's been a miserable failure when it comes to signing offensive linemen out of high school. I mean, a transcendent failure, like a failure that he has been as good as Derek Dooley was when Derek Dooley didn't sign an offensive lineman in the 2012 recruiting class. Okay, he's been that bad. And seriously, since Josh Heupel's been at Tennessee, he might as well have signed no lineman out of high school. He'd have been just as good as he's been. That's how much of a failure he's been at signing offensive linemen. Okay.
Well, let's say I'd like to soften
historic failure,
program
unprecedented.
The program has been. It's also been a challenge to get. I mean, as bad as Tennessee was, let's not forget that all of their recruiting was affected by an NCAA investigation. I mean, that hung over the program. So, pardon me, Caleb. I think that we could make a strong argument. We don't know who Josh Heupel is as a recruiter yet. I feel like we're starting to learn what it's doing, what he can do.
Heupel signed 5 offensive linemen in his first full recruiting class in 2022. 2 have transferred. The other 3 haven't even sniffed the field. Okay. He signed, the most notable one was Addison Nichols. 2023, he comes around. Now, it was only 2023, but he signed 3 offensive linemen. He signed 5 offensive linemen in 2023 as well. The only ones that we've heard any sniff or whiff of are Shimarad Umarov and Vyson Lane. And those are questionable, right? We don't know that they're going to be good. We don't know that they're going to be in the rotation.
I was told Umarov will play this year. So, but we'll see. We don't know.
I think his failure on the offensive line front at this moment is historic. And I'm reflexively going, if Josh Heupel's team wanted him, he must not be good. Because they have been so bad at evaluating offensive line talent.
Let me ask you this. What percentage do you place on Josh Heupel? Because I place 70% on the state at the university, 30% on Heupel. He's missed on some guys. I can't argue with that. Are you 70-30 flip-flop?
I'm 60-40 Heupel. Some of this has to be on Ellerbe because you trust your offensive line coach to run things. But what I'm constantly seeing with Heupel, and I have to be honest, what I'm seeing over and over and over again is Heupel is falling in love with physical attributes of recruits and thinking, I don't care if they're limited in their actual football talent. They're so physically gifted, I can coach them into being good. Are you not noticing that too?
I think they've coached him to being good. And James, I want to address what you're saying. So you're calling for Ellerbe's head. No. We think they get coached up once they get here, right?
Yeah, we just think they're not that good.
Yeah, we just think they're not the most talented offensive linemen that are out there. Again, I like this one. I like this reach, if it is a reach, but I like the pickup. And let's not forget, there's nothing wrong with recruiting the wrong guy now because you can run him off and there's nothing wrong with it. You just say ABC.
Okay, but how, okay, so Dave, you're a Yankee fan, obviously. When the Yankees had their dynasty, yes, they were signing players in the free agent market like nobody's business. They were pouring out money.
Points out they just signed a top 5 offensive line class.
Who, Tennessee? Are we talking about this? A top 5 offensive line class? You keep talking about the class rankings. I keep talking about the way Josh Heupel's missing on guys out of high school. Name a high school recruit Josh Heupel signed on the offensive line that you have seen on the field. Somebody name it. I will wait on the message board. And Dave, the reason I wanted to bring up you're a Yankee fan is because when the Yankees had their dynasty going in the late 90s, yes, they were buying players, but they also had a heck of a farm system, didn't they? I mean, yes. Their core players came through their farm system, right? And don't you think NIL needs to be the same way where you can go get transfers to beef up your class, but you need to have guys that you sign as freshmen that work out and can develop through your system.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I'm with Elias. We're sort of acting like he's been here for 10 years and offensive line isn't a position that you rarely start freshmen. I'm just going to say that I don't know yet. I don't know if he's good at evaluating offensive linemen. I figured that I will figure that out within a year because I want to see the Umarov class does. I want to see how the next class does. I just think it was a mess. We'll have to agree to this. Go ahead.
He's in his 4th year at Tennessee. There was not one offensive lineman entering his 4th year that he has signed that we expect to start this year, that he signed out of high school.